President Trump and his legal team appear to be shifting now their strategy in the Russia investigation. There's a new report from the New York Times laying out new demands from Trump's lawyers. The special counsel's team must prove that it has evidence of Trump committing a crime and that his testimony is now crucial to ending the probe. Well, before the president would agree to sit down with an interview with Robert Mueller. Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani admits that Mueller likely is not going to agree to these conditions, but it highlights the main focus of Trump's legal team, discrediting the investigation and swaying public opinion. Joining me now to discuss this, CNN political commentator David Swerdlick and CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Shan Wu. Shan, I want to start off with you here. How significant is this from a legal perspective? I mean, what is the bar here that is set? Mueller doesn't really have to even abide by any of these conditions, does he?
Right. It's a high and ambiguous legal bar, which is being set by Trump's team so they can define when the elements are met. So, for example, saying that Mueller has to prove that there's evidence of Trump committing a crime, question is who decides if that evidence really is there or not. Certainly Trump's people aren't going to agree no matter what Mueller puts out. There's a second point to that, too, which also lays a foundation. If they do put forth some evidence about the possible criminality of it, later Trump's folks can try to argue, well, there's a Fifth Amendment concern here, which might be another argument for not letting Trump testify.
And David, we've heard from the president before many times. He has said he wants to testify before Mueller's investigation, before his committee, that this is something that he would like to do. And at the same time, now his legal team saying, well, there are these conditions that look like it makes it almost impossible to do so. Do you think they're on the same page? Are they not on the same page with this? Or is this kind of a little bit of a play?
I think it's a little bit of a play, and good morning, Suzanne. I agree with Shan, right? There's this legal component to it, and then there's also the political component to it. The president can't go around saying he refuses to talk because that suggests that he has something to hide, whereas he wants to project the image of, yes, I'm willing to talk to prosecutors, but his legal team is saying, look, let's set these conditions to either slow down the process or to narrow down the focus of the investigation. The problem with this, if I can use a sort of a weird analogy, is that this is like a police officer pulling you over on the highway and you say to them, I won't answer any questions until you prove I broke the speed limit. That's not how it works. You get a ticket and then you go to court to prove your innocence. I think that's the problem with the stance that Mayor Giuliani
not
has.
Not how it works. Yeah, we know that's not how it works. I want to show you this here. This is Trump's use of the term witch hunt on Twitter to delegitimize the probe, and it's dramatically increased here just in the past few months here. You see where the use of the term, it spiked this year, and Giuliani telling the Times here, nobody is going to consider impeachment if public opinion has concluded this is an unfair investigation. And that is why public opinion is so important. So, Shan, I imagine that they are focused on public opinion, that this is what they think is essentially going to sway perhaps, the possibility that the House would even bother to bring up these impeachment.
No, that's exactly right, Suzanne. As David points out, there's the political and the legal piece of it here. And again, legally, Giuliani's saying he gets to decide if the crime has been committed or not. And they also want to say that they need to be shown that Trump's testimony is really necessary for Mueller to complete his report. And again, they can then say, well, whatever you say, we don't think it's necessary. And the strategy there, legally and certainly politically, would be let Mueller put out his report, and then they are free to counterspin that to say, we would have liked to participate, we wanted to talk, but they just weren't reasonable about the conditions.
Now, David, why do you suppose it is that they changed the strategy here? I mean, especially when you take a look at the timing. Does it indicate potentially a sense of a desperation or anxiety that you do have that deadline, supposed deadline coming up when he's wrapping up, Mueller's wrapping up?
Right. I don't sense desperation on the part of the president or his legal team, but I think Mayor Giuliani and the president for a while now have been out there with this idea that, look, the president hasn't done anything wrong. All those tweets, no collusion. So their idea by furthering this argument now is to sort of say, look, why should we even sit for this interview? Maybe we will, maybe we won't, if the president has done nothing wrong. That's their theory of the case. But as we know, and as Mayor Giuliani knows because he's a former prosecutor, Mueller and Special Counsel Mueller can always subpoena the president. And I defer to Shan on this, but even though there's some dispute about whether a president can be indicted, I don't think there's that much dispute about whether a president can be subpoenaed and called to a deposition or to testify. Is that right?
Right, and I agree with that. On that point, in criminal defense, delay helps the defendant. So the longer they drag this out, the more legal obstacles they can fight about, subpoena, Fifth Amendment, the closer they get to the elections.
All right, we got to leave it there. Hopefully not too many delays. I know everybody wants to see where this goes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, David Sperlich and Shan Wu. Thank you very much, and we'll be taking a quick break.